This is the DTV Digest, the podcast that brings you news and reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema. And now, here's your host, Mike Parkin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DTV Digest. I'm your host, Mike Parkin, and joining me this week are Richard Hawes.
Hello, everyone.
And Stephen Lockridge.
Hello.
Well, because we've had a bit of a break, thanks to me getting appendicitis, we've got 10 films to look at this week. We're going to kick off with Tom Hardy in Havoc. Then we have Nick Frost turning up as a cabbie in Black Cab. Then we have Ape times Mecha Ape New World Order, or Ape versus Mecha Ape, which is an Asylum mockbuster. Then we have Cold Road and Everyone is Going to Die. Then it's Gates of Flesh, and then another Asylum movie, Gladiators. And then it's off to New York for Mob Cops, before winding up with Rumpelstiltskin. Our short shot this week is The Miserable Misfortunes of My Marvelous Master, and we're going to wind up with a remastered, re-edited version of American Samurai as our DTV throwback. So, without further ado, let's crack on. Our first film then is Havoc. After a drug deal gone wrong, a bruised detective must fight his way through the criminal underworld to rescue a politician's estranged son, unraveling a deep web of corruption and conspiracy that ensnares his entire city. So, Gareth Evans is back. After the first series of Gangs of London, we've had this. Long time in the making. There was a lot of reshoots apparently been undertaken. Filmed mostly in Wales, believe it or not, as well.
I've read entirely in Wales, unless they did some of the reshoots
probably.
elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Now, a lot of expectation was put on this. A lot of people sort of were expecting something akin to The Raid 3. Or something along those sort of lines. I'm kind of glad we didn't get that. I like this film a lot. It does have its flaws, which we'll get into. But, you know, this does deliver some stonking action scenes. But before I get into all that, let's head over to Steve, see what he makes of it. Steve, what do you make of Havoc?
Yeah, really enjoyed it. I mean, you're right. It's not as. It reminded more of the Raid 2 than the Raid, obviously. It's obviously more expansive than that. But. And it's a lot more. Rather than just hand to hand, there's a lot more gun. Gun combat, gun action, that kind of thing. But yeah, I just really enjoy it. It's so visceral. And every shot. I mean, we've said before in the past on air now that what we don't like sometimes is when they're firing guns and it sounds like a cap gun going off or something like that.
Exactly. Oh, the sound design is amazing on this.
You hear every single shot and it's like an assault to your ears with it. And some of the scenes are just the nightclub scene. It's phenomenal. It really is. Some of the action in this is just so over the top, but it's more. It sounds daft saying it like this, but it's over the top, but it's more real to life, if you know what I mean. Because when someone gets shot with a shotgun in this, they don't just fall down; they explode.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's what happened. It's more.
There'd be big holes in you, basically. Yes.
Yeah. Not just a little dribble of blood and you fall down. It shows the visceral damage that shit like this would do, and it is just so over the top. But it's great with it as well. I think the story's a bit thin. It's not much really, it's like, crooked cops, you need to go after get my son. and that's it. And then just all hell breaks loose. But that's kind of what I expected and kind of what I wanted, and I got what I wanted.
Mm. Cool. Rich, what did you make of Havoc?
Well, it's been a long time in the coming, and I think it definitely lived up to expectations with a few caveats. I say, I think, I can praise the action, the quality of the action sequences, which are expansive, very long, like you say, the nightclub scene and stuff. The whole setup of it, the way it looks. I mean, I had no idea that it was made in Wales
No,
until
not watching it. Yeah,
looking up after the film. Which I'd just come back from Wales, funnily enough. I'd come back from the sort of Cardiff. They did a great job. I mean, the film's got a very particular aesthetic, lots of reds and stuff. You could compare it very easily to John Wick and stuff like that. I mean, it's very standard cop, has to protect someone, rescue someone kind of storyline. Very Jason Statham-y in places. It's not breaking any new ground, but the action is really good. I would say it's actually a lot better than some of the Statham stuff we've even had lately. And Tom Hardy is not the sort of martial artsy guy that Jason Statham is, but he can definitely do an action scene.
Yeah,
he is.
Sorry,
he does jiu-jitsu. He's won competitions doing jiu-jitsu.
Oh, you know what? You are absolutely right. I forgot. But I never think of it because I always think of him as like a dramatic actor.
Yeah.
For like Bike Riders, which was like probably my favorite film of last year. He was fantastic in that. But I don't associate him with action. But no, you are absolutely right. He did Warrior. And I don't know if that was before or after, but basically he got really into martial arts stuff around that time. But you just don't necessarily associate. I mean, I always think of Star Trek and stuff like that. I don't think of him as like being this a martial artsy kind of guy, but he was doing really the action really well. Now, so here's the thing. I don't know if it's coincidence or they were gestating around the same time and it just happened to be, but it's very, very similar in many of its aspects to Gangs of London, which Gareth Evans basically conceived and directed several of the episodes of the first season. And a lot of the scenes, I mean, there's a whole assault later in the Gangs of London series. There's a big assault on a house.
Yes, that I was very much we're very much reminded of that scene. There's that big house on the coast.
Yeah,
that gets.
And there's the whole thing here that reminds me of that. The whole concept, the world basically that we're in. We've got a cop, not undercover, but he's a cop. He's got issues going on. There's stuff with there's crime bosses who there's mother and son and all this sort of stuff, father and son, mother and son. So it's families, it's these crime families against each other and stuff. And this cop character, and I was thinking the major difference is the fact that, I mean, this is the other one's set in London, but it's got a very ordinary look. The Gangs of London series looks like series television, whereas this is more of that sort of heightened colors, say the reds and the sort of a John Wick world building sort of heightened reality kind of feel to it. I thought that, and Jude Poyer did the action in both.
He did,
in both these things. So, and getting to the action, great stuff, but why the hell is the camera being so twitchy and bouncy all the time? Not all the, well, I'll say not all the time, but quite a lot at times. And then things like, even when it's calmed down, it's like, just keep the camera still. I don't need you to be moving the camera around. So it was going a bit shaky cam basically at times, which did ruin it for me a bit. And I thought they just needed to control the camera a bit more, because they were losing some of the excellent action design, from because they were doing that too much. I always think of Gareth Evans as being quite, straight and fluid with his camera work.
Yeah.
I haven't watched The Raid 2, but I've seen some clips and stuff and some really, interesting stuff in there, and I definitely need to see it. But I've seen The Raid, obviously, and and that was really great. So the camera, another thing that bothered me from, the action standpoint was I felt like no one was reloading. It was like there was a couple of bits where they did like a very obvious reload, but it just felt like they were shooting and shooting and shooting
I think,
with guns that just were not running out of ammo.
well, I mean, for me, it looked like because they were kept continually picking up other people's guns.
Yeah, maybe that was it.
Yeah, so they shoot someone and then pick up their gun and sort of use that and then pick up somebody else's gun. So, yeah, I mean, you're kind of right, but at the same time, I think they did cover it.
Yeah, so those are some niggles that was just sort of jumping out. But I thought overall, I like this kind of story. He's a cop. He's a bit crooked. Well, might be quite a lot crooked actually, and he's got stuff. He's got a little bit of a redemption arc, but not quite. Sort of, maybe. It's like it is very much one of those action thriller kind of thing. It's more of a gangster action rather than a, here's the hero we can really root for kind of thing. He's like he's not a nice guy for the most part, so it puts you in that weird position. But it all works, and you have to have the bad. So he's a bad good guy versus worse good guy. Good guy. So we got some great support. We got Timothy Olyphant, which I wasn't expecting, and I thought he was typically Timothy Olyphant, but that was a nice. I'd say I didn't know he was in it. I thought he was really good. Forrest Whitaker's in it. Got a handful of scenes. So that was quite cool. And this the sort of co-star in the film, who's I'd never say might be a newcomer, or Jessie May Lee. I thought she was really good.
Yeah, she's in she's in a series on Netflix called Shadow and Bone.
Oh, okay, yeah, I've heard
that. Yeah. She's
so
got a big role in that.
Okay, cool. So so there's the Netflix connection and stuff. But I also enjoyed, the fact that I didn't know where it was filmed at the time, but I liked seeing a few familiar faces in the sort of stunt cast and stuff. So we got a guy called Gordon Alexander plays one of Timothy Olyphant's guys, and he turns up in stunt roles and very small parts lately, but he used to be. I mean, he was in back when British action movies were, British martial arts, Ross Boyask and all that, all coming out in the sort of early mid 2000s. He was kind of in that wave, so he was appearing in things like The Purifiers and what's it, Underground, and there was a film he made with Antonio Fargas called Sucker Punch.
Oh yeah,
which I remember coming out. So that was like a leading man role for him. So he's. Yeah, so I was like, hang on a minute, I know that face. So it was nice to see him, and there was a few other people who I recognised, and so the fact that it was made over here, that makes a lot of sense now. So the overall impression is good. I was telling my brother, I think and he's not really a big, he likes crime movies and stuff. So I thought I steer him in that direction. So you're not going to get a very weighty plot on it, but it's got a good solid setup. Could easily have been a Steven Seagal film kind of thing, really. It's got that setup, and then it all hell breaks loose, and people who like John Wick and whatever, you're not going to be disappointed at all.
Indeed. So Leon Sewer was one of the other sort of stunt performers that I know through Facebook. It was good to sort of see him in there. Shout out to a couple of other actors in this. So the character playing Mia, or the actress playing Mia, Quellin Sepulveda, I thought she was really good. Because she knows how to handle the gun. She knows how to handle herself. And it could almost be argued that she didn't actually need Tom Hardy to come and save her. She was pretty capable of sort of saving herself, but she was good. And also we get what's her name? Is it Melissa Waterstone? Just maybe 2 secs. Michelle Waterson, I should say.
Yeah.
Michelle Waterson, who plays the blonde assassin. Now, any film like this needs a decent henchman or henchperson.
Oh yes, yeah, fantastic. And
she was really good. She is actually an MMA fighter,
Yes.
and she's been a sort of stunt woman before. I would love to see her in more roles like this. So, I thought she was absolutely great. The whole thing with her, when she's wearing the motorbike helmet and all that sort of stuff, that's just really good. And then she gets it's this great fight at the end with Tom Hardy as well. So yeah, I thought she was very memorable.
Yeah,
in
my
this.
brother. When I mentioned the film to my brother, he was like, "Oh, I've got to see it because he's a fan of hers," and I was like, "I've
All
never
right.
heard of her. I didn't know who she
Yeah.
was."
No,
So
I
I was
had
like,
I had no idea
I
going
like the
in.
character, but I didn't
Yeah.
know who she
Mm.
was.
Yeah,
So yeah, she was
definitely a
really
name to look out for.
good.
Yeah.
Really, really good. Um, yeah, this film has got a certain look to it. I wasn't totally enamored with the car chase bits because they
Do
were
you feel
so
like me that there was a lot of like CGI
They
yes,
were,
on some of the action?
Ver-
Because that
not
was
the action,
again
but
nothing took me out of it. A bit.
yeah, just those car
I can
chase bits, like the bit at the beginning with the truck, and a lot of people have complained about the washing machine sort of going through the windscreen and the guy surviving. I think, well, yeah, washing machines aren't actually that heavy, you know.
Yeah,
You probably
it's the
would. So,
weight. It's like the
yeah,
concrete block in the bottom of it. Really, is
yeah.
the main problem.
But there you go.
I was listening to a podcast last week,
Mm,
and Dave watched it on IMAX, not at home,
mm,
and Dave said that the the car chase at the beginning was completely CGI. All of it was CGI,
mm.
and you could tell apparently on the IMAX screen.
Right.
But the other ones who like watched it at home said they couldn't really tell. But apparently, I don't think it was from the reshoots, but it was all CGI.
Yeah.
It
It's
looked very Blender to me. I've seen quite a lot of
yeah.
Yeah,
these kind of animated shorts and stuff
It's
online, and the quality's good, but
yeah.
it's just it's too.
Mm.
It's just not. I just didn't think it worked as well as perhaps they were hoping it was going to. I don't know.
I think so.
For me personally,
yeah,
I agree. But what that whole scene, it's more about the camera moves, than the actual action for me. The whole thing with the nightclub. The thing is, something's going to happen in the nightclub because the camera when they go in, the camera makes a point of giving you the whole layout
yeah,
of the club. When he
Mm.
goes in, the camera sort of raises up, so you got the different levels and everything, so you know
Yeah.
where everything is. So as I'm watching it, I'm going, even though I knew that there's a nightclub scene, which everyone was going on about, and I knew it was coming up, but even without that, I'd have known that they're setting this up. Something's going to happen in this place because they want you to know how it's all laid out and everything,
yeah.
which I thought was great. I'm kind of I read a really snide review of this,
Mm.
and the way they were talking about it, it made me think that maybe there's a longer cut of this film that was shown to critics at some point. Because they were talking about stuff which I thought, well, it's kind of there, but I don't have a problem with it's like I don't think you're seeing what I'm seeing, if you see what I mean, the way they were sort of talking about it. But there you go. No, I thought this was it was great. It reminded me of Timo Gisanto's work, things like Furies and uh, what was the last one he did? That was Furies, wasn't it?
Is that the
No,
one that
no,
Jude
the
Boyer worked on?
Shadow Strays and things like that. I don't know, did he? Maybe.
I know he did a show. I think he did a show called Furies,
Oh, right.
a French TV show. I think was it a French show?
Maybe. No, this is the Indonesian one, which is on
Oh,
Netflix.
okay, yeah, that's coincidence.
The Shadow Strays and that.
Gotcha.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, yes, this was great. Thoroughly enjoyed this. I'm giving this an 8 out of 10. It would be higher if it weren't for some of the sort of CGI stuff, sort of bringing it out. I didn't mind the digital blood or anything like that because there was so much of it. I think one of the refreshing things about this is that it goes back to the sort of the Hong Kong heroic bloodshed stuff. If you're going to shoot somebody, shoot them properly. You empty a clip into them basically, which is great to see. They didn't hold back, which I think we needed for sure. Steve, what are you going to score Havoc?
8 out of 10.
Brilliant. And Rich?
Yeah, so the niggles niggled, but overall, what works, and it is a film definitely worth watching again. I would watch it again if you like if you like John Wick, if you like Gangs of London. This is kind of a combination of those two.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's a definite 8 out of 10.
Yeah, it's not as clean. It's not as cleanly shot as John Wick, but it is very, very good and so visceral. So there we have it. 3 8s for Havoc. Go check it out. Our next film is Black Cab. A couple's jovial cab driver diverts them to a remote, haunted road, revealing disturbing motives and his true intentions. Yeah, so this is turned up on Shudder. It co-stars Nick Frost from Spaced and all the other things that Simon Pegg does. There are some interesting things in here, but there's a lot of crap as well. At the heart of it, eventually we get a ghost story from Nick Frost, Ian, as his character's called, which I quite enjoyed. That little bit I thought was actually quite good. And I was kind of interested at the beginning when we got this absolute C word of a guy and his girlfriend or his ex-girlfriend who he's basically kind of forcing to get back together with. It's that really shitty scene where he announces their engagement, to their friends, and they're all looking at her going, "Are you sure about this?" And she's going, "Of course he is." Yeah. That sort of red flag kind of guy. I thought was a good portrayal. It's somebody you're kind of looking forward to dying, basically. But other than that, I don't know. Steve, did you make anything of this?
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. It's basically a two-hander, really, between him and is it Anne? I think
Anne or Ellie, one of the two. Yeah.
Yeah, and like you say, it gets a bit interesting with the ghost story, but that doesn't happen until
A good chunk of the way through. Yeah, yeah.
45 minutes, an hour in, and so it's basically. I do love Nick Frost, and I do like his performance in this because he's one of them who can go jovial, then he's intimidating, in a split second. And I do like it when he does that kind of stuff. But it's just too spread out. I think it'd work better as a short. It's only it's an hour and a half, and it sounds daft, but it's literally them two talking in a cab until he gets to the house. Again, this is like an hour in, and it just drags on too long, and nothing happens. After that first initial 5-10 minutes with the dickhead boyfriend, when he gets incapacitated, shall we say, it's just them two talking. And nothing happens apart from that. And it needs more. It really does need more to it.
Yeah, I totally agree. How about you, Rich? What did you make of it?
Yeah, I did feel like we've seen stuff like this quite a lot, and they tried to do something a little bit different with this one by adding in this supernatural element, which kind of feels like two different films have been put together a little bit. I could have really done without all the supernatural stuff and just stick to the psychodrama, the psycho cab driver thing, and just work with that. I think it was just trying to find somewhere to go. No pun intended. It's fine, and I think Nick Frost is going for it, and it's really interesting to see him play a dark character because he might have done dramatic roles and stuff before, but I'm not massively familiar with his work. apart from the fact that I just know he's Nick Frost. You know, I've seen Hot Fuzz and stuff like that. But yeah, I thought he, as Steve was saying, I thought that shift between being a comical, being comical and seriously threatening, was done well. It's very much that kind of misery kind of performance. It's like a Kathy Bates kind of thing, where he's kind of appealing but scary, relatable, but quite dangerous, deranged character. So I thought that worked well. It's clearly low budget production, very small scale, very dialogue driven. It's got this kind of, say, the supernatural element sort of leads into this sort of open to interpretation ending, I guess. But yeah, it just wasn't really clicking for me. It was okay, but I can't really say anything more than that. It's really, Nick Frost fans got to see it. Horror fans, maybe you might want to check it out, but I think it's more of a curio maybe for Nick Frost fans to see, especially if they're only known for his comedy, to see him do something quite dark, and that he's really good at it. I don't know if he's normally this big, but he is big in this film. I mean, he's you see shots of him like walking away, walking around, or standing around. I mean, he's a big, very physically imposing guy. But it's not that. It's not the physicality of him that's threatening. It is kind of the mentality of his character. It's like he could have been stick thin and he would be just as threatening. But the sort of size of him was quite that added a dimension. I don't know if that's how big he is normally in life, or whether they've done any exaggerations there or something. But that was quite different, I thought. But yeah, so I like a Psycho movie as much as the next guy, and Psycho cab driver, cool. But yeah, without the ghosts, please.
Fair enough. Steve, what are you going to score it?
I'll give it a 6.
I'm giving it a 5. And Rich?
Yeah, I think the 5's reasonable. I feel bad not mentioning his co-star, the actress, who's I don't know if she's Swedish or something, but her name is Synnöve Karlsson. Yeah, I feel remiss not mentioning, because she has to hold her own with Nick Frost, and I thought she was quite good, and say even the guy playing her not very nice.
The shitty boyfriend,
other half. I thought he was fine as well, but yeah, it's just, I didn't quite work for me. So yeah, 5, I think.
Cool.
Sit on the fence with that one.
2 5s and a 6 for Black Cab. Go check it out. Our next review is Ape versus Mecha Ape. I want to say it says Ape X Mecha Ape, which that doesn't make sense to me. Ape versus Mecha Ape, New World Order. This is go on.
The Kong. It was Kong X thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know. I know what they're doing. The copy.
Weird, isn't it?
It never makes sense. Anyway. So, a group of world leaders awakens a creature beneath the ocean floor, and mankind's only hope rests on an alliance between the giant ape and his mechanical arch nemesis. I thought it was from like some extra dimension or something. Wasn't it from outer space, the creature?
I can't remember. I think so, because the beginning is like a rocket.
That's right. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, exactly. I'm sure that's wrong. Anyway, typical IMDb.
Yeah.
This is sort of like aping on the recent who made them? It was
Legendary.
Yeah, Legendary Pictures. Yes, sir. Yeah. Sort of the Kong versus Godzilla movies. Sort of going after that sort of thing. And to be honest, I think they do a reasonable job of going after that sort of thing. Um, my first foray into an Asylum film was um, what was it? Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus,
Mm.
which was awful. You know, they had like three special effects shots, and that was it. And the rest of it was people talking either in a submarine or in a boardroom or something like that.
Yeah.
And we do get a bit of that here. We get a lot of that here. But I was kind of impressed actually with some of the dialogue and the things because for once they actually did sound like civil servants. You know, I could actually relate to the sort of the conversations they were having and things about sort of jurisdiction and all that sort of stuff. You know, there's a lot of it. I think also that Shin Godzilla was a bit of a
Yeah.
an influence on this one because that one was sort of more to do with the you know the red tape and sort of the administration behind you know how to deal with an attack as much as the attack itself.
Yeah.
But we do get some decent effect shots and things in this. You know, we do get a giant ape, we do get a mecha ape, and we do get a tentacled creature. So you know, it actually does. It does what it says on the side of the tin. Basically, is yes, it is cheap. You know, it's not going to get anywhere near the budget of even a Legendary Pictures effort, but it's certain. You know, Asylum has certainly come a long way in terms of what they actually deliver. How did you get on with this one?
To be fair, yeah, I agree with you that because it's not. There's things in it that are cheap.
Hmm.
Like the bit that got me is when they're supposed to be government officials and they're in like a little Toyota Yaris or something like that.
Yeah,
It's not a
Hmm.
it's not a presidential limo or something
exactly.
like that.
It's not a motorcade or anything. Yeah.
To be fair, the actual creature effects, I thought they did them pretty well.
Hmm.
I mean, especially the Mecha Kong or whatever. I mean, when it started, the first couple of scenes are like say we're in like a rocket base, mission control type thing, weren't they?
Yeah.
And there's one bit where a guy's just and it's just green screen. You can tell it's green screen. It looks awful. But then they bring the creatures in, and the creature effects are actually pretty good. I mean, I think one thing that kind of let the story down was the supposed, cult that was bringing the alien to life to take over the world, and that I don't think it really needed that aspect of it. That annoyed me a bit, and Sean Young was just
I suppose they need something for the humans to actually battle against.
Yeah,
I guess.
I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was kind of the only thing that didn't really ring true.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got Sean Young for probably 2-3 days just in a room. I don't think does she leave the room at all.
Can't remember. Yeah.
I don't think she does, but it's decent. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's not on a par with like I said, the legendary ones or even -1. Which I think was probably cost less than this. To be fair,
Possibly.
It's it's all right. It's fun. It's.
I could stomach this more than I could the last Kong versus Kong versus Godzilla one, which had in the trailer at least had Kong and Godzilla running towards the camera side by side.
Yeah.
And it looked like something out of The Simpsons. When they do a parody, it's like it's almost like Godzilla and King Kong, partners in Vice Cops or something, busting heads and solving crimes.
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of. So this was actually more realistic than some of that shit. But yeah, this is a fun one from Asylum. I think Asylum been around long enough now that people know what they're getting.
Yeah.
With this, but I do think they've upped their game. I think the Sharknado films gave them a bigger profile. and
Yeah, definitely.
and you know they haven't rested on their laurels. You know, yes, obviously this is, oh, what was the expression they used to use for these things?
Mockbuster.
Mockbuster, yeah. So it is a mockbuster. You know, it is riding the coattails of a big budget franchise, but at least they're actually making it entertaining at the
Well,
same
yeah.
time.
Oh, having said that, I do. This is a sequel, isn't it?
It is as well, yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to mention that, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
This is actually a sequel. Yeah, that became very apparent early on because it
Yeah.
just jumped straight into the action, without any in media res as well. So there you go. Yeah, okay, mate. What are you going to score? Ape versus Mecha Ape: New World Order.
I'll give it a 6.
Yep, a 6 is very fair. Yep. 2 6s then for Ape X Mecha Ape New World Order. It's from Asylum. You know what you're getting. Go check it out. Our next film is Cold Road. On a frozen highway in the remote Canadian North, an Indigenous woman and her dog are hunted by a stranger in a semi-truck. I had high hopes when I put this on because the first thing I get is the Raven Banner logo, which is a Canadian label that I like a lot. Most of the stuff they put out is pretty good quality. What we have here is another riff on the Duel film. We've covered things like Tailgate. Remember that one? The
Yeah.
Danish one? Yeah, similar sort of thing. This guy just, these very remote roads, just picking on people, basically, in this big truck. And this woman, she's on her way to visit her mum and her sister. Her mum's like dying, basically. She's on a deathbed. And, she's hoping to get there to say her final goodbyes. And this guy just starts, harassing her and stuff. So to begin with, after her first encounter with him, she does the right thing. She just stops the car, lets this guy fuck off, and works out which way he's gone. And thinks, right, I'm going a completely different route. I want nothing to do with this guy. But unfortunately, a bit further up the road, turns out the road she wanted to go is closed. So she is stuck on the same road, and of course he or she catches up with them later on. So it's a sort of cat and mouse thing. It's relatively straightforward. We keep going back to the mum and the sister going, "Where are you? Oh my God, it should be here by now," and all this sort of stuff. But I will say the climax of the film is actually pretty decent, and the way she overcomes the sort of situation is quite ingenious, and I did like that particular moment. And it is quite a low budget film. There's we're talking about 3, maybe 4 actors in the thing. It does sort of fall back on this thing where we're dealing with one character in a car and her dog, so she's basically talking to herself a lot of the time, which is sort of a bit silly. But there you go. But yeah, I stuck with it. It was okay, and I did like the ending. And on that basis, I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 10. So there you go. That is Cold Road. Go check it out. Our next film is Everyone is Going to Die. An entrepreneur is attempting to reconnect with his daughter on her birthday. However, the party is interrupted and they are taken hostage by 2 masked female robbers who appear to have real problems with the patriarchy. I think it's sort of overblowing the sort of political side of it a little bit.
Definitely.
We've been here many, many times, Steve.
Yeah.
Scenario.
It's your typical home invasion type thing, except that the women, I think that's the main difference, really. I mean, I know you've got like a female and the strangers and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
But it's not.
Or was that one we all really enjoyed, the Goldilocks and the Three Bears one?
Oh God, yeah, yeah.
We
Really
like that one. Yeah, it's memorable. Yeah.
yeah.
Um. Yeah, I get bored with this sort of stuff. You know, it's like we've got two people in the house, and we got two aggressors, as it were. Um, no one's going to die very quickly.
No.
You know, they're going to drag this out as long as they can. And yeah, no, there's no real story here at all. Yeah, we get one little twist right at the end.
Mm.
You know, um, and there's this really sort of quite tasteless bit
Yeah.
where he's forced to stab a woman and then have sex with her,
Yeah.
which was
Yeah.
like, okay. I mean, at least they had the good taste to sort of blur it out a bit. You know, you can still see what was happening, but at the same time, they made it as not as gratuitous as possible. It's not that sort of film. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
It's one of them that we've seen it a million times.
hmm,
You know, we have. Might be a slightly different angle on it, but it's still the same. Boils down to the same thing, and you're not surprised with anything. I thought the performances were quite good, though. I mean, I do
hmm,
like Jamie Winston. I've not really seen him much for a while, to be fair.
hmm.
I can't remember the last thing I saw her in. I don't know. But same thing as that we've seen millions
Yeah,
and millions of times before.
unfortunately,
Uh, it wasn't. There's not enough there to make it different,
indeed.
you know. And that's as soon as you put it on, you know what it is, and you know what it's going to be, and you know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, the two sort of home invasion films that's come to mind for me. There's one called Mother's Day, which was really good. Where
That
this,
the Rebecca De Mornay one.
yeah,
Yeah, I've
where
not.
she and her sons come. Basically, they'd hidden money in the house like years before, and come to get it back.
Mm.
That was really good. And there was a Spanish one called Kidnapped, which is basically made up. It's like it's long takes. There's like six long takes basically making up the film, and
Right.
that one is nasty.
I mean, yeah. I mean, to me, the major one really is probably Funny Games.
Oh, I can't watch that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is just like it's totally depressing.
Yeah.
No.
Well,
Anyway,
you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's.
well, at least that one, at least that one's. I mean, that one is nasty as well. This one, there's no. It's like, well, you got two people tied up, and you got two people waving weapons around and stuff for
Yeah.
most of it, until you get to the end. So okay, no,
Yeah.
no, not for me. What are you going to score it?
I'll give it 6.
Yeah, okay. As you said, it is well made.
Mm.
Well made, well acted. It's just treading old ground. I think a 6 is fair. 2 6s in for Everyone Is Going to Die. Go check it out. Our next film is Gates of Flesh. A group of friends attempt to escape the city after an outbreak of demon possessions. The friends seek shelter in an abandoned church, but their plans for escape are ruined when one of them becomes possessed. Interesting one, this one, Steve, actually, for a couple of reasons. One is I like the idea that we're at ground zero for this sort of like this outbreak of demon possession. It's like, oh my god, everyone's being possessed, all this sort of stuff, and making their way to this church. What happens at the church then? These guys are just like completely brain dead. Absolutely. There's not a leader amongst them. no one to sort of suggest, oh, we need to barricade ourselves in, or we need to get supplies, or anything like that. It's like, oh, no, you just wander off. Yeah, just wander off and explore shit. You know, for a lot of it.
Right. I will give them a little bit of a due
Mm,
because they do barricade the windows and stuff. That
that's
is
true.
probably the only thing that they do.
Mm.
And yeah, sorry, carry on. Carry on.
So the other thing which actually impressed me, so you know, we've watched a lot of low budget films and a lot of zombie films, a lot of possession films, all this sort of stuff, and you know, even to like guys in monster suits or whatever, you know, werewolves, and there seems to be a very standard way of acting if you're possessed or if you are a zombie and all this sort of stuff, and it, you know, it doesn't work. You know, a lot of the time it doesn't work. Um, so I was kind of impressed with the guy who gets possessed in this one because he puts on a really decent performance as this sort of malevolent Joker kind of character. You know, the way he talks and everything, the way he smiles, I thought was really, really interesting. And there's a bit where they basically break his spine and he's going, I can't feel my legs when he's laughing. And he's sort of dragging himself across the floor and all this sort of stuff. I thought that was actually pretty decent. You know, the rest of it, the Scooby Doo shit, like I could have done without. But yeah, there were some attempts at doing something a bit more original. How do you feel about this one?
I thought this was shite. I'll be honest. It bored me to tears. I'm not being funny. It's like, right, the possession thing was slightly interesting. I'll give it that. That's the only thing that makes it stand out. I mean, I think did it say at the end that this was made during COVID protocols and stuff like that?
Might have done.
I'm
Might have switched it off by them.
Yeah, I'm sure it came up right at the end. But it's basically 6 people in a church hall acting like knobs, and it just wound me up. Something rotten. I could honestly, like you said, all the characters are dickheads. Literally every single one of them, and there's no one to root for. And again, it's one of them where it doesn't really stick to its own rules.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing pisses me off because I just don't get it. You're creating it. It should stick by. You should have rules that you stick by.
Agreed.
And it doesn't. It 1 minute they possess, 1 minute they're not. 1 minute they don't know how it's going, how it's moving. The next minute it's going on to somebody else and stuff like that. And it just doesn't flow. It just jarring. And then when, you know, the one they supposedly left for dead 5 hours ago turns up, and it's just like no.
Well, the thing is, there is an adage in both film and TV that if you don't actually see the character die, then the likelihood is they're not dead. So, you know, that sort of thing. Yeah, I'm quite okay with.
That's another thing. Now, it's supposed to be a horror. It's not scary at all. There's nothing. There's nothing there. I mean, what's it? Does it actually say the rating? I mean, it could be a 12. Really, because there's nothing there. There's no gore. There's no scariness. It's just
everything's shot in. You know, they got the lights on the whole time as well, haven't they? I think for just about all of it.
Yeah.
You know,
it's like opposite to what something I'm going to bring up later on. But yeah, there's no. That's it. There's no mood. There's no mood setting. It's just literally 5 people in a church hall, and one of them's tied up to a chair, smiling and talking bollocks, and it's not scary.
No.
And I'll be honest, one of the posters just on IMDb just absolutely gives it away. It really does.
Dear. Oh, that's right. I haven't seen the posters. No. I'll have a look later. Cool. All right. I'm gonna dare to ask you what you're gonna score it.
4.
I'm gonna go one higher. I'm gonna give this one a 5 But I kind of agree with you. Yeah, I did like the demon. The way he acts when he's possessed. As I said, that sort of saves it a bit. But otherwise, yeah. So a 4 and a 5 for Gates of Flesh. Go check it out. Our next film is Gladiators. When a once great gladiator's betrothed is murdered, he vows to hunt down the killer. But when he discovers the murderer is no stranger, the gladiator must enter the Colosseum once more to avenge his bride. Again, like the Mecha 8 one, Steve, definitely a... Oh, what do you call it? A mockbuster. That was it. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if anyone really is sort of you can almost imagine the audio track going, ah ha ha, you thought you were getting Gladiator 2. But instead you've got this cheap knockoff. But having said that, and like what we were talking about, the Ape versus Mecha Ape one, Asylum are putting quite a decent bit of effort into this. There are some decent sort of fight scenes. The acting isn't too bad. Obviously, we don't get the crowds. We don't get anyone, any performances like Denzel Washington or anything like that. But it is solid. The sets are good. The costumes are good. I thought this was very watchable overall. It needs tightening up. Some of the dialogue scenes go on way too long. They give the game away who's doing what too early. But so we have this this gladiator called Cassius, who gets his freedom, and he's basically betrothed to the senator's daughter, or a senator's daughter, and everything's going swimmingly until basically the emperor decides to get this guy killed off, or the whole family killed off. But because Cassius had nipped out for a sec to see his old mate Vernon Wells, he didn't get killed, but he gets blamed for the murders, and he has to sort of figure out who did it and basically get back in the arena. It's decent enough. Again, it feels like a COVID film. Because there's only ever sort of 2, maybe 3 people on screen at any one time. But I thought the actual sort of fights were done quite well. As I said, the sets were good. And I can see people who would, if you did like the Gladiator films, and wanted more, basically, then this isn't too bad overall. I thought this was okay. So yeah, it's typical Asylum, but typical now Asylum rather than the sort of stuff they used to do, for sure. There's a bit more money involved. So yeah, I thought this was okay, and I'll give it a 6 out of 10. So there you go, 6 out of 10 for Gladiators. Go check it out. Our next film is Mob Cops. Now, that really does sound like a Simpsons parody.
Yeah.
When a retired NYPD detective publishes a book about his family's mob connections, war breaks out between the cops working for the city's big crime boss and the officers trying to bring them to justice. Again, I'm not quite sure that captures what the film is, but there you go. No, but we do get a straight detective who, one of his informants called Josh, had disappeared. Nobody knew what had actually happened to him, and he sort of feels compelled to try and bring a bit of closure for Josh's mum, who he'd become a bit close to. And the film it's sort of split between him interviewing sort of mobsters who are now residing in prison, as well as sort of chronicling the actions of these 2 very crooked cops who end up working for sort of one of the main bad guys. What do you make of this one?
To be fair, I didn't like this one either.
Hmm.
It's obviously, it's trying to be a Goodfellas rip-off. It's a mob film, but there's just no soul, no heart to it. I mean, the thing that got me is, again, it's like it's trying to be Goodfellas and break the record for the most number of F-bombs in the film.
Indeed. Yeah.
It's like every other word, you fucking fuck, or what?
I know.
It's like they got a script and just threw them at it or whatever. And I know that sounds like a petty complaint, but it's not. Like, it's literally half the script.
Yeah. What was
Yeah.
funny actually is because I had the subtitles on, and the subtitles kept bleeping out the words, which I thought was quite amusing. But there you go. Hmm.
But yeah, no, it didn't get me at all. It's just, I mean, it's well made and that, but the story just didn't do anything for me. The crooked cops. You know what's gone on.
Hmm.
Is it based on a true story? I think it is.
So. Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, I'm sure it says that. But there's just it's another another crooked cop gangster movie that we've seen a million times, and I think the most interesting thing to me was like David Arquette playing kind of against type.
Hmm.
Because he's normally like Dewey or a bit goofy or something like that, and this is quite straight up a bit of a dick, evil. And I thought that was probably the only interesting thing, really, in the film, because apart from that, I was just quite bored.
I think it would have been better if it had stuck to one set of characters. Yeah. So if it stuck with the two crooked cops, I think that would have been, a relatively decent film. But yeah, I don't know. I've just splitting it between that and all these interviews and things just didn't work for me either. But yeah, and it didn't have a memorable soundtrack. You think it had gone out for something, a bit like sort of Goodfellas or Casino, but didn't. It just sort of. But anyway, what are you going to score it?
I give it a 5.
Again, I think that's I think it's 6. I think it might be a 6, this one for me. So there you have it. Okay, so a 5 and a 6 for Mob Cops, not a Simpsons parody. Go check it out. Our next film is Rumpelstiltskin. A miller lies about his daughter's gold spinning ability, leading to her being locked in the castle until she manages to spin gold from straw. Luckily, a mysterious imp appears to help her, but at what cost? Now, what filmmaker out there had the burning ambition to bring Rumpelstiltskin to the screen?
Anthony Edwards, apparently.
I mean, of all, I think this is one of those things. It's like the whole Winnie the Pooh thing and Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and it's the sort of thing that Van Damme actually parodied in his Van Johnson TV show when he was making a film where he was Tom Sawyer, but it's Tom Sawyer, the DTV version kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's all this sort of like, it's all these sort of, public property stories and things that let's make a film out of Rumpel fucking Stiltskin. I mean, It does. It sticks to the script. It sticks to the story pretty well. But so what?
Right.
Go on.
Right. I'll be honest. That's what I thought it was going to be. Like, you know, these Winnie the Pooh horrors or stuff like that. But it's not. It's more or less a straight telling.
It is. Yeah. There is some humor in it. I did like the fact that there is some dialogue in there which is actually quite amusing, which did put me in mind of what's the other filmmaker I really like? Oh God, the guy who did Werewolves of England.
Was that Charlie Steeds?
Charlie Steeds, yeah. So it did make me think of Charlie Steeds. Charlie Steeds sort of scripts. So there is that to it. But at the same time, I'm thinking, why? Why on earth are we watching a film about Rumpelstiltskin?
Right. But the thing is, it's too dark.
Yes, literally. Yeah.
Actually, a lot of the time you can't say anything. And the king is way over the top. He's like effing and jeffing and stuff like that. But the thing to me was, right, I did enjoy it, I'll be honest. But like you say, I don't see who it's for.
Yeah.
Because it's not a kid's film.
Definitely not.
Definitely not. You've got the effing and jeffing king. And then you've got a little bit of gore at the end. Not much, but you've got, a little bit of blood and slight nudity and stuff like that. So it's not for kids. But it's not played like a full out horror, it literally is like a fairy tale.
Yeah.
So to me, I just think if they'd have maybe dialed down the language and the bit of the gore at the end, it could have been like a Dark Crystal scary fantasy film for kids, but it's not. And that's the issue with it. I don't know who it's for, because it's not scary enough to be for adults, but it's too explicit, rude for kids.
Yeah, and story wise, it is literally the fairy tale.
Yeah, it's a straight retelling, which, like I say, it's really, really surprised. I was expecting like you say, like these Winnie the Pooh, Goldilocks type things where so blood and guts and gore and stuff like that, but it really isn't.
Nope.
It's just a straight retelling. Which, it does kind of baffle me, but I did enjoy it. I mean, I thought the guy playing Rumpelstiltskin, I thought he was really, really good.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed his performance, even though you couldn't really see him.
Indeed. Okay, mate. What are you going to score it?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 7.
Wow. Cool. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm giving this one another middling 6. So we're getting better. Yeah. A 6 and a 7 for Rumpelstiltskin. Turn your brightness up.
Yeah.
Go check it out. Our short shot this week is The Miserable Misfortunes of My Marvelous Master. In this tribute to Stephen Chow and Kung Fu comedy films, 2 Kung Fu masters must compete for a grant in order to open their Kung Fu schools. There's quite a bit to like in this, but I hated the music in that first 5 minutes. Absolutely hated it. I thought it was way over the top.
Apparently, it's from Hundreds of Beavers, I think.
Yes, which is a film I did not enjoy at all. So that probably has something to do with it. But when it actually got to the comedy bit, there's a brilliant routine with a knife, which I thought was very funny. I did enjoy it. I enjoyed it a lot. The whole thing with with the knife. And sort of sticking it in and going, why did you block it? I'm blind. Loved it. So there's quite a bit to like in here. There's another good sight gag where the 2 women are reading the subtitles as they appear on the screen. Thought that was quite good as well. I quite like this overall. Rich, what can you tell us about it?
It's a new film by Fred Newen Khan. It's does kung fu and comedy shorts, I think, on YouTube. I saw this one flagged up by Film Combat Syndicate.
Mm-hmm.
I think I am subscribed to the channel that it was on, but it was something that I wasn't fully aware of. So yeah, I mean, we've been sport for lots of martial arts action shorts lately, and it's this one I felt sort of stands out because there's a bit more meat on the bone in it. It's essentially a fight short, but in a similar way to the Art School Dropouts film Going Viral, which we watched a few weeks ago. I felt that they sort of added a bit more tops and tails and stuff, and actually there's some similarities there with this and that, with the fight, basically this antagonist this threat walks in to in what case in Go Viral was the dojo, and in here is what is never clarified where they are, but I think it's
like a grant office or something, like a bank or something.
Yeah, it's an office. They didn't really have the budget for it because it's very low budget, and I think that's what it kind of has a almost like a previs kind of feel to it. It's like they've made the sort of rough version, and then they're gonna then they would do sort of the bells and whistles, get the sets and all that sort of stuff. But I know that's not the case because it's probably this is the film that they've made, and they made it for YouTube and whatnot. But I think it overcomes its budgetary limitations by virtue of its clever script and performances, as that say, which is something we've seen in quite a lot of say films by people like the Art School Dropouts, and that I would say there's one called Prologue or Prologue, which they recently did, which is a different kind of film for them, but that's got the same kind of feel. It's like it's bringing all this stuff in, but they didn't have much money for set design and whatnot. But yeah, I thought the performances were good. I like the guys. I like the comedy with the blind guy is clearly not guy. I like the little nods and stuff, like it's the Seven Little Fortunes loan and stuff, which these little thing. I thought everyone in the cast actually was good, and there's some nice play. So one of there's the assistant of the sort of lead loan officer, I guess, and she's like, "Oh, we've got to go and get this guy." She goes to the cupboard and opens up and says, "Right, it's time." And he's like, "Oh, for this," and they go, "No, not for that, for the other thing," kind of thing. And he comes out, and then he gets to be all flamboyant and stuff, and it's like that's quite a lot of fun. But it's fight driven. It's a fight short, but there's it's broken up into parts, and it's about 19 minutes long, and yeah, it's good fun. Well worth checking out, I think.
Steve, did the comedy work for you in this one?
No. I just didn't find it funny. I don't know why. It just didn't grab me at all. I thought the fighting was a bit stilted. I mean, I know it's supposed to be, but it did. And yeah, I just didn't find it funny. I don't know. It was just a bit preposterous. Why are they going through all this to get a grant to open a dojo? I think was it a dojo? Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a fighting school or something.
There's a great payoff at the end, though. I think.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not going to say what it is, but say
the newspaper.
Yeah, it's not going to work for everyone, and no, that's fair enough.
I mean, I thought the only thing that was funny was the knife throwing bit.
Yeah. What's the thing? It's like there's a lot of violence in it, but there's no blood. So so I was a bit confused with the little knife sort of stabbing.
I thought it was like, is it like a stage knife?
Is it supposed to be
retractable blade or something?
Because that's what it is in. You can see that's what it is. That's what they're using. But in the world of the film, is it supposed to be a real knife that's actually gone into this guy? Because there's no blood on it. But there's lots of bits like that's where what I say about things like it feels like it's like the previs version,
Yeah.
because there's so many things like that they're using, and they're doing these cuts and stuff where no blood appears or whatever, that you think is, or it's obviously a wobbly plastic knife or something, that you think, is it like meant to, I'm not sure what the intention is for it. There's a couple of bits of visual effects that they've added on in, like there's one bit where proper comedy Stephen Chow kind of bit where the he's got like loads of holes in him, and water starts coming out when he has a drink and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's kind of like someone pulls out the knife, or pulls out the sword, and it sort of grazes him, and he goes kind of thing. And it's like, well, did that actually hit him or not? Because he's got no wound, and then if the other guy's got a serious wound, but then like you say, the knife throwing, it's again no blood, but I think there's a very serious consequence there, and I think I thought that was quite funny.
Cool. All right, we don't score the shorts, but we do recommend you go check them out, and we will put a link to this in the footnotes below. Go check it out. Our DTV throwback this week is American Samurai. An American reporter teams up with a martial arts expert whose half-brother is a Yakuza, Japanese mafia, drug dealer to battle swordsmen from around the world in a Turkish arena. Now, interestingly, this is the film that introduced me to Mark Dacascos. This is the first film that I'd seen him in, and he is basically the best thing in this by a mile. I never got on with David Bradley as a replacement of Michael Dudikoff. And even in this, there's some great martial arts scenes, except when David Bradley is involved. Suddenly it all just sort of grinds to a halt when he's on screen, which I didn't enjoy. But Mark Dacascos' scenes are great. The ones he gets to do. I thought he was really, really good. This is a remaster, or it's been re-edited.
It's basically they call it director's cut.
Yeah. It's been so long since I saw this. I mean, I saw this on VHS rental, back in the day. When did this come out?
1992.
92, exactly, yeah. So I was 23 back then. My God. So a long time ago. Yes, but it is, it's a decent tournament film at the end of the day. What did you make of this one, Rich? Sorry, no, do that again. What do you make of this one, Steve? Had you seen it before? The original version?
No, I hadn't. I was going to ask you guys, actually, if there's, much added with this supposed director's cut or not, or...
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I mean, it's a 90s, like I said, tournament film. When it gets there, it takes a while to get there. But I mean, normally, like Bloodsport and kickboxing is more about the training before the tournament. But this is just like, I don't know, a journalist. Supposed to try to track down his brother. Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, his brother's done this murder, and he knows it because from the blade swipe or something of the injury. Yeah, that's it. And so yeah, I mean, it's a bit ridiculous. It's over the top, but it is what it is. It's a 90s tournament movie, and I didn't really expect it to be like that. I thought it'd be more, I don't know, like not a tournament movie, like something in the jungle or something for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, you're thinking of American Ninja series.
Well, yeah, probably. I mean, I don't really remember watching them. I remember them coming out, seeing the video boxes in the VHS shop and stuff, but I never really watched them.
Yeah, I'd watched the first one. And it took me ages. I think I saw the second one on Tubi or Mubi or whatever it's called, and I absolutely loved it. I must admit, I'm thinking, kicking myself a bit that I hadn't seen it previously, but there you go. But no, I thought this is pretty solid. Mark Dacascos, it became an instant name sort of filed away in my head to sort of look out for other films. Rich, I'm assuming you'd seen this before.
Yeah, like you say, I knew it from its video days. I used to I used to own a copy of it. I think I bought it through the Britannia Video Club
Hmm.
back in the day. It was part of. I think it was. I think I'm not sure if it was released once or a couple of times, but there was one version of the box which had it was the it was put out by Warner Brothers, and it was like the Big Picture
All
sub
right.
brand or something they were
Hmm.
putting out at the time. So it's a Canon film, late era, sort of, well, distributed by Canon. I'm not sure.
Hmm.
I think it's. I'm not sure. It's like not pure Canon, but it's like tangential sort of Canon video in the United States and stuff. And they put it out. The this edit, I think, I don't say I can't like you guys. I've seen, or like you, Mike. I've seen the original, but I can't tell what is massively different apart from the bits that really, really are obvious. So
Hmm.
that is the editing and adding in of like visual tricks and
Hmm.
new credits. There's some very none of this stuff works for me basically. But there's say it feels like a fan edit rather than like a proper director's cut.
Yeah.
It's been put together by a guy called Lyle Goodwin, and it's basically got he's worked with director Sam Furstenberg, and he's essentially got his blessing and all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. But I still see it as like a fan edit, or it's like a rough idea of what the film might have been
Hmm.
differently. But I don't remember what it was. I don't remember I'm sure that if I went back and watched the original, I would probably prefer it because the sort of garish credits and colourful sort of
Very,
fever
very
dream type of stuff.
long. It was very
Yeah.
that opening sequence is very long, and all it seemed to be doing was there was a film we covered. It was a Jean-Claude Van Damme film called Kill 'Em All,
Mm,
which I lambasted. One of the reasons was because they were using clips from the film itself in
mm.
the credits, in the opening credits.
Only Mission Impossible is allowed to do that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. This, but and this does that basically. It's just like you're using footage for stuff that we're going to see later on. It's just really, really annoying.
Yeah, a few years, I mean, back in 2001, Albert Pune did a film called Ticker, which had loads of actors in
Yeah.
it, including Steven Seagal, and he released his own director because that film was full of stock footage from other New Image movies and stuff,
Hmm.
and it was so he released a version where he stripped all that out, and Albert Pune was a bit like that with the sort of editing tricks and stuff. So all the stuff that you see at the beginning of this film really reminded me of that
Hmm.
effort that Albert Pune put out that edit. So the sort of mixing up that footage, adding in all those colourful sort of layers of it. Just I mean, it sets a different tone to what the original film would have had. I mean, you go back and watch it. I'm sure that I mean, actually, I did check it out because I went and back and checked the opening of the
Yeah.
original, and there's a whole scene about the lead character Drew's parents dying in this
Hmm.
accident, which I think has been completely excised out of this version. Maybe there's a couple of bits of footage of it, but it's a whole thing at the start of the other
Hmm.
version of the original version. Um, so I was just glad when it wasn't shoehorning stuff in. I
Yeah.
mean, there's loads of uh, awkwardly added, mismatched, um, like stock footage
Hmm.
of like Turkey,
Mm.
and they keep putting in for like these big establishing shots, like drone shots and stuff.
Yeah.
It just doesn't
There's
fit. It really takes you out. It doesn't match.
yeah. There's one establishing shot which is basically a photo that they zoom in on.
Yeah, they do that a lot as
Yeah.
well. So I think that's
Yeah.
where they've taken the original footage and say in the original film it just kind of maybe showed that, but
Hmm.
in this version they're going to go, well, what I originally wanted to do was kind of really zoom in, but that didn't do anything for me.
No,
I didn't like any of
not
that
at all.
stuff. When it was just being the film, showing the footage of the film, that was good with me, and
Hmm.
I was happy with. I mean, it does. The film starts a bit weird because it's like it goes from setting all the stuff up to he's been kidnapped, he's been captured, and he's got to take part in this deal. I don't know if that's as quick in the original. It probably is, but then it literally does just turn into fight after fight after fight. There's no story. There's no story in this version, and probably no story in the original version either. But I thought some of the action was really good, and I like some of the guys. There's a guy who's clearly well, I don't know if he's intended to, but he's very like Matthias Hughes, but he's Australian.
Oh yeah, the bleached blonde hair guy.
Yeah. So I thought he was quite good.
Yeah.
The film is partly modelled, I think, on Bloodsport.
Yeah.
So they've got this Donald Gibb kind of character who comes in, this big Texan guy.
That's right. Yeah.
We do this whole because it does play out very Bloodsport Kumite style, and it's the underground fighting and all this sort of stuff. But there's some good stuff in there, and like you say, I think David Bradley is a bit of a weak link because I mean he's supposed to be a methodical, samurai guy, swordsman. It's not that big. There's some very acrobatic performers and stuff in this. They're doing lots of different styles and stuff. Whereas he just swipes the sword basically, and that's it.
Yeah. Suddenly, there's some nice sort of camera work in this.
Yeah,
where you get to see all the action, because the camera's sort of far away enough. Anytime sort of Dave Bradley's involved, it's like, suddenly it's very close up, and you can't really sort of see what he's really doing, and then sort of stunt doubles and things to sort of flesh it out a bit. Yeah,
so you're right. I mean, in this version, I'd like to go back and watch the original because I really wanted to compare the two. Because some of those fight scenes are really well shot, and edited, and they say can see, which is. I mean, considering how choppy American action movies typically were of the period, and still are in some cases, I was quite taken aback by wow. Those guys are we can see what they're doing. They're doing really good moves. I mean, the I think it's like the first fight scene in the sort of underground thing. The first two combatants. That we watch. I thought that they're really good.
The guy who runs up the wall and does the backflip and things like that. Yeah, really, really good. Yeah, no, totally agree. So I think considering that this is available on YouTube for free and it is remastered, it's interesting. It is still in the sort of 4:3 ratio as well.
They didn't manage to get any. I mean, this isn't like a
official release,
sort of Blu-ray standard sort of restoration or anything. It's just kind of, I think it's a bit like an experiment that they kind of do. It reminded me a bit of, Sylvester Stallone did his re-edit of Rocky IV.
All right,
and even that felt like a rough cut, and that's by the guy. That's another film where the director has worked with. Very close. It's his idea, I think, to do it. And they've sort of moved things around, shoehorned some stuff in, and done to a much higher standard, but still just didn't quite feel right. And this one does. I mean, there's some scenes in this which, again, it's hard to say whether that's this version or whether it was in the original, but I suspect it's this version where they've added in layers of sound which just don't fit. Like there's one. I think it's the scene with the American guy, his fight scene, his big fight scene, where they've just added in all these woo, kind of woo, kind of sort of bits from like some other show or something. It just doesn't sound right. It's very weird. Doesn't fit. And there's a scene with Drew and his love interest at the start of the film where the music just feels really inappropriate. Like it's like, why is this music playing? It just doesn't work. It feels like they've gone, I think we wanted to change the mood of this scene, so let's just layer that music over it to give it a different feel. And I was like, that's not working for me.
No, I agree. Right. So we don't score the throwbacks, but we do recommend you go and check them out. This one you can find on YouTube, so we will put a link to it, and hopefully you'll go check it out. It'd be interesting to see. If you notice any differences yourselves, or if you've not seen it, see what you make of the likes of Mark Dacascos and some of the other performers. Mark Dacascos is quite funny in this because they've actually sort of given him sort of a makeup to sort of make him look more Japanese. as well. So the eyebrows and the sort of around his eyes and stuff, and it kind of makes it because. One of the early scenes, he's wearing like a kabuki mask or something, and he takes that off, and it looks like he's still wearing another mask underneath because of the amount of makeup and things on his face. It looks sort of quite plasticky. It's quite weird. But
I thought that was an effect they did in a few scenes, but in other scenes he looks much more regular.
Yeah,
I don't know what they were. I think it was. I don't know. I don't know what they were doing in that. But yeah, I'd say there was definitely to try and emphasize, make him look, because he's Hawaiian, I believe. Make him look more appropriate to the era. I was thinking when I was watching it, David Bradley and stuff. I was thinking if it was made now, it would be a Scott Adkins movie.
Yes.
And I was kind of thinking
now,
yes, kind of do it, because if you think of like the Ninja movies,
well, it does have that sort of same sort of subplot.
Exactly.
Of like the half brothers, or this being, and one being overridden by the other, by their father, on chosen, and I think didn't Ninja Assassin do that as well? Maybe. I can't. It's been ages since I've seen that one.
I don't remember the bad guy in that one, to be honest. But so I think that whole brothers and one's from a different culture. I mean, that was very popular. I mean, look, not even brothers, but sometimes they would just team people up, like Showdown in Little Tokyo, and it's like Dolph Lundgren is the one who's
Enter the Ninja
into the culture, and all that stuff. They were all doing it. American Ninja was doing it. It was all very of the they were very popular sort of theme at the time. And this was this one is kind of mixing everything in. It's like, right, let's take a bit of Bloodsport, let's take a bit of that one and a bit of that idea, and it's just put it all together. David Bradley's maybe the weak link. This edit isn't the best, but there's some really good solid.
There's some good stuff in there. Yeah. There's there's a whole host of these films, like Americans not taking over, but getting involved in a different sort of culture and then besting everyone at it.
Yes.
So, there's American Yakuza, which is a personal favorite of mine with Viggo Mortensen. There's this one, obviously, American Ninja. There's also American Shaolin. Did you ever see that one?
Is that a Seasonal Films one?
I can't remember, but it was actually quite good.
I've got a feeling I think I have seen it. I've got a feeling. Don't know. I always think of Lauren Avedon, but I don't think it was a Lauren Avedon one.
I don't think it was. No, the guy in it.
I come across it, even if I haven't seen it. I'm definitely familiar with it.
But anyway, but that one's worth checking out for sure. Okie dokie. That is the end of this week's show, the marathon of films that we've talked about. Thanks, guys, for checking them out with me. And don't forget to check us out on Facebook and X and Blue Sky at the DTV Digest, also the Short Shots. We are now back proper. Episodes will be coming out more regularly. So please tune in next time.
Thank you for listening to the DTV Digest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tune in again next time.